Thank you again for joining us all. And welcome everybody to this community event, Get to Know YachtAid Global, sponsored by Science and Perspective. I am the owner and CEO of Science and Perspective, Dr. Anselino Davis, and I will be your host for the evening. And it is my philosophy that we can all use more science, but to use it effectively, we need more perspective. You can follow Science and Perspective using the handle @SciPerspective on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can look for Science and Perspective with Dr. Anselino Davis on YouTube for engaging and informative videos on a variety of topics. My vision is a Bahamas where the citizens are empowered and equipped to conduct the science they need when and where they need to for our benefit. And my mission is to support connections between our scientific community and the training and resources they need to meet their goals. Today's community meeting delivers on that mission. So today's meeting is about removing obstacles to allow more Bahamians to engage in the science that is relevant to our country. And in these uncertain times, it also means helping to protect the lives of our people and their dignity through emergency response and humanitarian efforts. YachtAid Global is uniquely equipped to support us in meeting those logistic needs in our small island, big ocean country. And today they will share with us how they are able to do that and how you can utilize their support. This meeting will be recorded and the recording will be made available to registered participants. You can also find out more again about Science and Perspective on my social media pages by searching for Science and Perspective or looking for @SciPerspective. Now, with that, I would like to welcome Mark to give us a little bit about the history of YachtAid Global. Mark, would you unmute yourself, please? Mark Duello.
Hey, Dr. Davis and everyone, this is Matt with YachtAid Global. Maybe Mark is having some connectivity issues. I know he's out in the field. I can certainly fill in for him if we don't hear from him here momentarily.
That's fine. You can continue along, Matt, and hopefully Mark can jump in.
Awesome. Hopefully everyone's doing well today. Thank you all for joining us. Again, my name is Matt, and I'm the Global Outreach Coordinator for YachtAid Global. A brief history of the organization, which we will go over in our presentation shortly, but just a quick intro. We've been around since 2006. Mark Drullo is the founder and executive director of YachtAid Global. And he is previously a super yacht captain and had been so for many years. And in his other business, he decided that he would create an opportunity through super yachting to be the super yacht agent here in San Diego, California, where we both happen to live. Through that, he realized that the super yachting industry was uniquely positioned with the resources to be able to give back and do good in the world. And so from there, YachtAid Global had organically kind of transpired and turned into a founding nonprofit in 2006. I'm going to turn on my video here so you all can see me. Hello, everyone. And from there, we've grown pretty exponentially in our missions, our capabilities, and the work that we do globally. We are an international nonprofit, and we do support work all around the world, mostly in remote or coastal communities where boats travel to. So we can get into that a little bit further here. I am going to attempt to share my screen here and see how this goes. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that. Dr. Davis, is that available to you?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. Excellent. So the purpose of today's meeting, as Dr. Davis had discussed prior, is to meet all of you, give a brief introduction and overview of our mission and our capabilities, and some of the ways that we can support one another. It's definitely goes without saying pretty much that collaboration is the key to success here. And without collaboration, without partnerships, and without the great work and the support that you all do, being able to make a positive impact in the world would be significantly challenging, if not impossible. So that's what we are here for today, to kind of give that introduction and brief overview. Let's see. So as mentioned, YachtAid Global is a registered 501c3 nonprofit. We were founded in 2006, and we operate at the highest level of international nonprofit work, providing disaster relief, humanitarian aid, and conservation programs across global coastal communities. Our initiatives really engage the yachting community's generosity and the unique assets that are already in place. We will talk a little bit more about that. Excuse me 1 second here. That works. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but essentially what that looks like is the fact that we don't necessarily own any of these boats that we utilize. We have a YachtAid Global managed fleet of pre-vetted vessels who are constantly cruising around the world on their own accord. Our network is designed to align these vessels with altruistic works, and we operate on their schedule. So we abide by an agenda-free programming that allows us to change the world without changing course. That's a pretty important note. The fact that most of what we do is reliant upon others and is reliant upon their availability and resources. YachtAid Global's operations, programs, and projects have engaged over 250 super yachts across 175 projects in 25 plus countries and growing, in a timely, agenda-free initiatives that have saved lives, alleviated suffering, and protected the environment. We support the UN's Sustainable Development Goals for the 2030 Universal Agenda, and it's intrinsic in all of our efforts and everything that we do. And we are highly committed to sound stewardship in the use of contributions. We maximize the impact and sustainability of our operations by delivering the right aid to the right people at the right time. One thing to note, when we talk about operations, programs, and projects, our operations are defined sort of as ongoing for many months to up to many years in most cases. Our programs we set up to have a lasting impact on a continual basis, and our projects are generally timeline driven. There's an end date in place when the project is started. So you can think of that something like a construction project or something with an end or a completion date. YachtAid Global's mission is that we play a lead role in facilitating yachting industry-wide engagement and collaboration for humanitarian, conservation, and disaster management efforts across global coastal communities. We provide unified humanitarian aid, conservation, and disaster response leadership through program and logistics management, as well as consultation. Coordinate the acquisition and delivery of humanitarian aid to coastal communities in need, in collaboration with a global network of volunteers, vetted NGOs, and disaster relief experts. We have the ability to coordinate super yachts and crews to provide life-saving disaster response. identify and support local humanitarian conservation initiatives, facilitate and promote visiting yachts and yacht crews to volunteer and engage in the communities they visit, and ultimately save lives, alleviate suffering, and make the planet a better place. So we do have those 3 areas of focus, focusing first on disaster relief and recovery objectives. It's our belief that a well-prepared and organized super yacht can be a very powerful, high-impact, autonomous disaster relief platform across coastal communities. We've seen this on numerous occasions throughout our years, and we'll go into a couple and explain. Disaster relief and recovery, basically multidisciplinary expertise, the highest level of international agency and government interaction, and our global network of partners and super yachts enable YachtAid Global to provide high impact, immediate relief, as well as long-term recovery support when natural disasters strike. So for example, taking a look at what we call our Operation Topaz, YachtAid Global consistently monitors weather patterns globally. And in August of 2019, we saw the formation of what would be Hurricane Dorian, and preemptively set up Operation Topaz to assist in the immediate and long-term aftermath post-landfall. Excuse me. YachtAid Global fleet vessels were on the ground within 24 hours post-landfall, and during the first 2 weeks served as an operational and communications platform for Marsh Harbor and the surrounding islands, providing support for specialized emergency response team members, as well as food, water, search and rescue teams, and disaster relief work. The yacht crew also produced and delivered clean water, food, medical supplies, facilitated medevacs during those critical first few days. And in the weeks following, YachtAid Global had organized 11 additional super yachts and an operational sea bridge for hundreds of smaller vessels that provided over $5 million in-kind donations and the delivery of 600,000 pounds of aid across the Abacos and Grand Bahamas. The operation clearly demonstrated YachtAid Global's expertise in comprehensive disaster relief, logistics coordination, and the power of collaboration, the importance of verified, vetted needs assessments, and the successful execution of disaster relief for providing the right aid to the right people at the right time. We're continuing to support the Operation Topaz and the Northern Bahama region across the Abacos. Just recently in May and June, myself and the YachtAid Global team were on the ground with our partners, Friends of the Environment, and we delivered our 4th run of school aid supplies to 11 schools across the Abacos. A quick focus on humanitarian objectives. Focusing on humanitarian efforts obviously builds resilient coastal communities. It's better prepared to weather natural disasters and improve the quality of life for local residents. A couple examples, we have clean water access depots. Water is obviously a source of life, and clean water access is foundational for a strong community, excuse the typo. We have ongoing work set up through Mexico and Central America where we're installing clean water access depots, and that work is continued to expand globally at a pretty rapid rate. Our shelter, Build Back Better for storm resilient homes and community structures. A good example of that is following Category 5 Tropical Cyclone Harold in Vanuatu, which destroyed almost all structures and homes, as well as the traditional palm trees that they built them out of. We facilitated efforts to have local weavers from outside islands to come in and teach the countrymen and women their techniques, allowing them to be more resilient and immediately build back better after using naturally available resources. So community members from various islands across Vanuatu had come in to teach their community's techniques to the communities in need. Logistics are private and commercial means to create both global and local supply chains, including most challenging the last mile logistics. In conjunction with our network resources, Last mile logistics are successful due to the fact that the nature of the boats, the tenders, and air operations enhance access points and capabilities across many regions that are otherwise unreachable. Education and rebuilding school structures, replacing equipment destroyed by disasters. So as we discussed previously, the school aid delivery as part of Operation Topaz. We've additionally rebuilt some preschools in Vanuatu following, again, Tropical Cyclone Harold, and those preschools then double as part of the shelter and the main meeting point for the community in a disaster event. Education and literacy and local curriculums. YachtAid Global has built and supplied the first ever library in the Galapagos to educate the next generation on the importance of their biodiverse land and become stewards of their environment and their culture. Additionally, supporting youth at risk, things like surf camps, surf therapy for youth at risk in South Africa, sailing camps and swimming camps to connect youth in their development and connection to the ocean. Most recently, we have launched a sailing and swimming school in the Galapagos. Focusing on conservation objectives as well. Unifying conservation and humanitarian objectives helps accelerate the conservation progress and strengthens the longevity of outcomes. Environmental conservation focuses on the reduction and elimination of single-use plastics and overall ocean and coastal pollution. Marine life conservation, pelagic species research and tagging, supporting the establishment of marine protected areas covering marine life, corals, and ocean floor. We've established an operation called Operation Swimway. That's a conservation program enabling boats and guests as well as crew to be able to work closely with distinguished members of the scientific community. That is sort of on pause at the moment due to COVID, but it is something that we are continuing and will continue to look at in the near-term future. Blue carbon initiatives, mangroves and wetland conservation, reforestation for stronger blue carbon sequestration. We've included in our conservation efforts, supported research for reducing carbon in the atmosphere. We've created an initiative to study blue carbon in Magdalena Bay in Mexico to address marine ecosystems and climate change through natural resources and natural solutions. And environmentally focused disaster relief, championing and sponsoring alternative methods to the typical disaster relief, rebuilding using local natural materials, partnering with locals and experts to study the impacts of natural disasters on local ecosystems, things like coral, marine life, wetlands, tide pools, etc. And an example, as we previously discussed, is in Vanuatu with the Build Back Better program there, which is just one of many examples. So that's a general and brief overview of kind of some of our capabilities, who we are and what we do. We have up here listed our contact information to our website. It's just YachtAidGlobal.org. Our Facebook pages, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the social. And you guys can feel free to email me at any time with any questions following this as well. I'm Matt at YachtAidGlobal.org. And I'm sure Dr. Davis will be sharing this presentation, this PowerPoint presentation, so you all can have it and have these contacts and this information as well.
Could you blow that up for us, please, Matt?
Yes.
Thank you. That's much better.
I just can't, oh, here we go. Okay. All right. So now we can open it up to a brief Q&A. If anyone has questions or topics to discuss that they would like to discuss. Just a brief side note, this photo over here on the left is from our time on island and is actually Cooperstown Primary Elementary on mainland Abaco.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Matt, for the presentation, and definitely for joining us and taking your time to share with us all of that. Some of the questions that I got just by trying to put together this meeting. Firstly, how does the communication normally work for, we're communicating with YachtAid Global to say, we want to get a conservation activity going, or maybe we want to get some humanitarian aid. And then do we start by communicating with you and then you put us in touch with the yacht that's going to be back and forth?
Yeah, so generally speaking, we handle the majority of the communications back and forth with any vessels that we'd be engaged with. We do operate with a pretty stringent protocol and processes in place. So generally the first step would be to reach out to us with interest. And I will be reaching out to everyone here after in the coming days after this initial call. And if something that we said kind of, said, oh, maybe that's something that we could be a part of, or we want to learn more, or what have you, we first go through the vetting process to be established partners with our NGOs. And following from there, we work through the communications aspect with various vessels, try to align, specific verified needs with a solution.
Okay, and I really like you keep saying vetting process. So you said that you're vetting the community partners that you work with in country.
Yep.
But you also vet the vessels. You said you vet the boats and crews that come in.
100%.
And what are those processes like for you to vet, vet the vessels, and for you to vet us as in-country partners? Like what type of partner are you looking to work with?
Sure. So right now we're looking across the board for anyone within those realms, within the disaster relief, humanitarian, or conservation space. That's generally where we operate in the majority of work that we do. So anyone who has projects ongoing in that space or related spaces, or even perhaps expanding one level further, somebody who knows of somebody on island or in country, globally, et cetera, that works within that space. The vetting process is something that we hold internal. We communicate with vessels. We have a long questionnaire that we reach out to them to understand their capabilities, their desires, where they're planning to go, those types of things. On the other side, when we go through a vetting process for our NGOs and potential partners that we work with, the process is similar in that we need to understand exactly what we're getting ourselves involved with from both angles. And so the nonprofit's history, the nonprofit's registration, the nonprofit's missions, the nonprofit's abilities, the nonprofit's projects that are ongoing, all of that stuff we like to see and share, transparently up front, so that we can understand a little bit better about how we can maybe place them into an area of need.
Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, you should be able to unmute yourself. If you want to ask, or you can put a question in the chat. Another question that I have is about the planning and timelines. So for Hurricane Dorian, you guys saw Hurricane Dorian coming basically, and you planned ahead and said, let's be in position before this happens. But if we're perhaps doing a research program where we would like your support, what does that timeline look like? How long does it take to go from us connecting with you and telling you what we're all about to us maybe having that opportunity to have a boat and crew in country?
Sure. So obviously it varies case by case, but I think to understand your question, you're looking from basically this introduction call to get to a point where we could potentially match you up with our partners in our network to be able to facilitate whatever need it is that you have. Is that correct?
Yes, kind of a minimum threshold.
Yeah. It's generally a number of months, probably 2 to 3 months. But there's fortunately or unfortunately a zillion variables in the boating world that can prevent us from being able to do the things as we so hoped to do. Again, I'll go back to saying, that the majority of these partners that we have, the vessels that are under management in our fleet, we don't own any of them. And so we are at sort of their mercy of schedule, their mercy of time and locale.
Okay. We have a question from Taronda. Could you unmute and ask your question, please, Taronda?
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Davis, for inviting me, and thank you. I have a question as it relates to the nonprofit side of things. I don't know how or if we could, if the process is the same, sorry, for collaboration for nonprofit organizations, specifically for nonprofit organizations that caters to high school girls. I noted you mentioned a number of programs. Do you have any programs specifically for, well, not necessarily girls, but that age group, grades 10 to 12?
Currently we do not, but it's not outside of our realm of possibilities by any means. The only reason that we don't is because none of our partner NGOs have come to us with that specific need in that age group. So by all means, I would encourage that we follow up and we can discuss more for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
I have another question here. For the boats that you get, what is kind of the range of, their capability? Like, do you have like small boats that can get into the marls of Abaco? And do you have a big boat that could maybe take us to the backside of Andros on a trip that will take, several days to get there and, get back, and that you have like cooking facilities, berths and stuff for the scientists?
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, both. However, I'll preface it by saying generally moving people is very complex, and I don't want to say impossible, but is near impossible in a lot of ways. In the line of work that we do, it's not to say that it can't be done, but generally it's much easier to move things like supplies and get people in by other means, whether it's supported by the boat or not. But in terms of the boat capabilities in general, obviously each boat is different, but the majority of the boats that we work with are very large in size, have quite a lot of capabilities, things like berthing, things like kitchens on board, the ability to have tenders or chase boats that are smaller in size to get into those tighter areas, as well as the capability to cruise, many hundreds, if not thousands of miles the world over as necessary.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Follow-up question for your cruise, and you kind of mentioned that some of the crew or the boat owners might want to be more involved. Like, are they looking for opportunities to participate in the science or the humanitarian work directly?
A lot of times, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what is their level of their interest and or capability? Like, are these like scuba divers that can do like quick training, help us to do marine stuff, or
Yeah.
are they interested in science already?
Yeah, again, it varies from boat to boat, right? But the majority of the crews that work on these super yachts and on these vessels are highly trained, highly skilled individuals. A lot of them are PADI certified divers. A lot of them have backgrounds or otherwise interested in science. They're all, inherently connected and tied to a love of the ocean. So they do have an intrinsic, I guess, need or desire to support ocean research, conservation, et cetera.
Thank you. Another question, are there any specific limitations? Like, are there any hard lines? Like, this is something that YachtAid doesn't do?
I would have to default to Mark on that. I don't know necessarily. My instinct is yes, but that kind of leaves it open for interpretation. I guess it's sort of a broad-based question.
Yeah.
I can certainly talk to Mark and Dr. Davis if you'd like to message me privately for whoever that was that asked. We can get back to them and get them the correct answer.
Okay, excellent. Rashima Ingram has a question. Could you unmute, please?
Hi, thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we are.
we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for this platform, and Matt for being able to share this. I think it's awesome. What I wanted to find out from you, Matt, was, and I don't know if I may have missed this, but if I did, can you just recap like the minimum and the maximum amount of time that YachtAid would be able to provide any type of service to a project that we may have? And the reason why I'm asking that is twofold. It's because we have youth programs where we would like to take them out into places beyond just the shoreline, so that they're able to see a little bit more as they're doing their, just junior research work, because they're high school students. So we'd like to take them further, but it is a little costly. I don't know if Dr. Davis was able to give you a mouthful about how expensive it can be when you're trying to do research projects. So I wanted to know what the minimum and maximum time frame YachtAid would be able to assist us with getting on the water more.
Sure. Yeah. Again, it's kind of a difficult question to answer definitively, because all of our resources and connections are based upon other people's resources. And so the time frame for which a boat might be able to engage could vary dramatically. It could depend, from as short as 2 or 3 days, maybe, up to if there's a vessel that's cruising in the northern Bahamas for months on end, they might be able to support on and off time frame, for moving people or scientific gear, et cetera, to and fro. It really just depends on the vessel's schedule and their operations.
Thank you. And for the boats that come in, do you ever offer opportunities where people, like, we just get Bahamian kids to go and see a super yacht where they can actually just experience, like, this is the coolness of a big boat like this? Do you ever do anything like that?
Generally, no. A lot of these vessels are very private and don't necessarily engage in that way, unfortunately, because it would be cool.
All right.
I'd love to be part of it too.
Thank you. Rashima, do you have another question?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question to the answer that you just provided, Matt. And so I wanted to be sure that I understand that the 2 to 3 month time frame that you spoke about earlier, is that the planning time ahead of the actual date that we intend on, let's say, using one of the yachts for whatever purpose we may want to use it for? So if we were to come to you 3 months ahead of that time and say, here's a project that we want to work on, this is the amount of persons, the amount of time, that would then be able to give you enough information to come back to us and say whether or not you'd be able to participate?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. I would say the longer lead time, the better. The more availability that you have to give us a bit of a heads up on that, the better that we can position and try to plan for whatever those needs might be.
Okay. And so, and I'm just gonna do like a little quick summary of my understanding so far.
Sure.
YachtAid basically has a bunch of friends with really cool boats. And then when we need to, you guys collaborate with us as in-country NGOs or scientific partners. And we know we have a project that we would need boating support for. And we reach out to you all, and you reach out to your friends, and they say, yeah, I should be in the Bahamas at this time, and I'll allow you to use my boat for this activity during this period. And then you help us to coordinate the logistics for that. Is that about it?
In so many words, yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely a bit of a complex scenario. It's super unique what we do. And I think that, you know, the two takeaways from that are, yes, there are those possibilities to be linked up in those regards. However, you know, YachtAid Global doesn't make any promises in that, given the fact that we're at the mercy of their schedule, of their owners, of everything that goes on. And so it's a challenge for us to definitively say, you know, if ever, that there's going to be this vessel at this place at this time, and they can take on these many people and do that. We generally don't know that. And that's why we coordinate and run the project logistics the way that we do, such that, you know, the boats themselves, we create this project for the vessel based on a need that you all might have within your specific organizations, and utilizing the vessel's support essentially comes out of that need, and the project is then created from that.
Excellent. Thank you. We also have some partners that are here from the Caribbean region who are looking in, and so you might get some more contacts from a broader range than
We love it. We welcome it.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. Do we have any further questions?
Yeah, Lino. Yeah.
Hello, Anne, we can hear you.
Hi, yes, one of the things we were looking at is whether YachtAid could help us we want to do regional seabird surveys. And based on what I'm hearing, I think we'd have to reconsider a bit, but just to be clear, if we wanted to engage a boat or several boats to help us visit a series of islands around the region to look and count seabirds. What I'm hearing is that the idea that we had, maybe we could have some resident scientists on the boats that would work with the crews to go and do these surveys. That might not work because you really prefer to carry things rather than people. Is that the case, or is there some way that we could work that out?
It's not a hard no. We've definitely done similar projects in the past. Logistically, it's quite challenging, especially now with the advent of COVID. It becomes even more complex, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, carrying humanitarian aid is significantly easier.
Right.
But it's not to say that, you know, those options are not feasible and are not available. They are. It just takes a bit of additional effort in setting up.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand with the COVID, like hopefully we're going to move into some sort of post-COVID reality. I mean, I guess the other possibility would be like since you say you've got a lot of really, people with training and skills on the boats. So another possibility would be, to just train people in our methodology, and the boats would go and collect the data according to our methodology. Would that be something we could do?
Yes, absolutely.
That would be really cool. Yeah, imagine getting all the yachters that are going through the Bahamas actually looking at birds and reporting them for us. That would probably be pretty epic.
Yeah.
I mean, even so, if it on a sort of almost generic thing, like just we have very little information about seabirds at sea. So like getting a cadre of people, who are doing other things, just to note like, oh, we saw, a flight of whatever birds at sea at this location, or a kettle of birds feeding at this patch. We could get a lot of really good incidental information like that. That would be interesting. So we would definitely be putting some ideas together and bouncing them off you.
Please. Yeah, absolutely. That does sound very interesting.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I have one more follow-up question, please, before you wrap up.
Sure.
Was that Tyronda?
Tyronda again.
Okay, go ahead.
It's in relation to, I think Matt mentioned information systems, if I'm correct, that the organization is working with.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, I said if I'm remembering correctly, you mentioned computer information system or a platform that you guys are working on or creating for your program.
Like a logistic. You guys have some kind of background logistics program?
No.
Okay, I probably misunderstood. I thought you said you guys are working on have some technology platform that you guys use. I apologize.
No worries.
Thank you. All right, this has been great, Matt and Mark. You can hear us, but we can't hear you. I know you're with us in spirit, in digital spirit, I guess.
He extends his apologies via chat here on the side to everyone. So sorry about that, but sometimes technical difficulties get the best of us. I'm sure we've all been there.
All right. Thank you again, Matt, for this.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
And everyone that has registered, Matt will have your contact information, and he will be able to message you after this. And hopefully you have some great connections and you get some great projects off the ground. For my part, this is what I'm doing on behalf of Science and Perspective. I am putting you in touch with the resources that you need and that I think would be useful to our community. And pretty much after that, I'm going to step away. All right. I just want to get you to a point where you can meet each other face to face and shake hands and know what resources are out there. And right now, I'm kind of just doing this for fun because I love you guys and I love the work that you all are doing. So I really appreciate the time that you gave us to this afternoon, and I can already feel the good energy coming out of this. Thank you again, Matt, for your presentation, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in the near future and seeing the good work that you and YachtAid Global are doing here and around the Caribbean. I'll be honest, I don't want to see you have to do any more humanitarian aid, like Hurricane Dorian style, but I want to see you do more conservation and more relaxed cruising through the Bahamas.
Absolutely.
For our work. Thank you again, everyone. And I will end the recording now.
Thank you all very much. Greatly appreciated. Looking forward to meeting and connecting with all of you.
Thank you. You guys can sign off or you can hang around to chat relaxed without the recording.
Take care.